All right, Charlotte, have you any sympathy for them?
I mean, you've got to a bit, haven't you, given the history behind this. Of course, Harry's mother died in such a car chase, and I can sort of imagine if I was him, you'd think, it's happening to me, and even if it wasn't that bad, your brain would start to work itself up. Probably not to the extent that you'd then put out a press statement saying that something like this had happened. You'd hope that some publicist would get in the way and say, hang on, let's talk through, maybe let's put this a little bit further down. But in the moment, absolutely, I think I have sympathy with him.
But Kevin, it's tricky, isn't it? Because as Tyrus said, they've been spectacularly thirsty for media attention. They've done the Netflix series with every spit and cough of their private lives. They've done the book, obviously, Harry, 420-odd pages about his private life. They've sold their private lives to the highest bidders now for the last 2-3 years. There will be a lot of people, I've seen it all over social media today, pretty cynical, saying, look, if you want to play that game, if you want to work the media that hard for personal gain, for money, for profile, then this comes with the territory.
Yeah, it's very different to people who are very famous but shun publicity. They don't keep going to awards dinners. They don't keep searching for the limelight. They want their privacy. It's very hard to imagine this happening in London, and I'm not aware of it ever happening.
Well, it wouldn't.
When they lived here.
Look, it used to go on with Diana, and in fun, if I checked an interview I did with Diana when I was at the Mirror, and it was just before she died, actually, a few months before she died, but I'd had lunch with her, and she told me how the paparazzi, there were certain rogue paparazzi, they weren't attached to newspapers, but they would deliberately upset her by being abusive. And when she reacted emotionally, they'd get the footage they wanted, and they would sell that as Diana's tears over marriage or whatever. And she said, please understand that's what they're doing. And I said, OK, we're not going to use those pictures anymore. And we announced it in the Mirror, actually, at the time. And she thanked me when I did this interview for what we had tried to do. Now, unfortunately, you can't control the world's paparazzi. Many of them are good, hard-working, decent people. I've worked with a lot of them over the years. And some are complete rogues. So we don't really know yet. I think, but it may be last night was a pretty chastening experience.
Yes.
The question then becomes, how much of that do you bring on yourself?
Yeah, and I agree with the sympathy for him, the way his mother died, and he said every time he sees a flash or hears the click of a camera, he goes back, and he's clearly a troubled young man. And you could say, yep, they've made themselves celebs, so you're going to get attention. They want to conceal where and who they're staying with. Yeah. Why do they want to do that? But I also understand why some of the people would want to know where and who they are staying with. But that wouldn't excuse
if you stay in a major hotel in New York, you've got complete privacy.
Yeah.
We had the Met Gala recently. They were all at the Carlisle. No one got inside. It's completely walled off. Tyrus, let me just also ask you about the fact that they were there at all. Was that Meghan Markle was receiving this award from Gloria Steinem for being an inspiring example of equality and feminism. Do you see the Duchess in that way?
The Virtue Signaling Award? First of all, as the more we talk about this, my bodyguard instincts just kicked in, and I just have another question. And I remember there was one time where me and Snoop were in Saint-Tropez, and I mean, it was Usher's birthday party or something. It was some craziness. And when we came out and we saw the mob, I literally said, you know what? We're going back in and we're going to wait out. Yeah. I don't understand why they would come out of a thing, see the paparazzi coming for them, and their bodyguard wouldn't just say, oh, we're going back in. Because taking them back in is the safest place to be. And then when you just wait them out or you get a back entrance. So the more I think about it, the more it seems like, especially if you truly have that type of fear or a horrible memory, the last thing you would do would be constantly putting yourself around cameras.
That's what I just can't get my head around. It's like, why would you go?
Well, I can, because it's not him. Yeah. We need to stop blaming him. Yeah. The poor, as we would say, the poor guy, he married an individual who runs him rampant. It's about her. She's receiving an award and she's not known for, it's not like she's going to Calcutta and feeding orphans. She's literally one of the most selfish people. The things that she said about the royal family and the things that she says about people is not someone that should get an award for inspiration. But again, it's virtue signaling. And of course, to get more attention, after she received an award that none of us even know about, the paparazzi chased him. So, I mean, and now we're all talking about it. So
Yeah.
she did her job, and it just feels like I told you, every time I look at the poor guy, it looks like he's sitting on a chair of broken glass, and he's constantly being put in the mix. I still say he didn't write that book. She did. And he's just caught up, and eventually, I hope that he will stand up for himself, because he seems like a decent guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Charlotte, the interesting thing is she made this speech, very gushy, typical Meghan speech, but it was all basically about her feminist credentials. It was about being kind to people. It was about equality. Is there anything less equal than being a duchess who uses royal titles to make hundreds of millions of dollars? And when it comes to feminism, does she really represent the feminist icon that young women should look up to?
I mean, not for me personally, to be honest. I think, look, she was a reasonably successful actress. I sort of don't necessarily buy the idea that every time a woman is in the public eye doing anything, that must in some way be a huge kind of feminist moment. And actually, I was thinking, listening to that, about Taylor Swift. She's lived in North London for, 6 years now, and she's kind of a bit, I would say, responsible at times in her career for doing the whole I'm a woman existing, therefore that must be feminist thing too. But you never saw any photos of her, because it is possible to hide if you are a celebrity and if you've got enough money. And
there's no question. I know massive stars who just walk around. Tom Hanks came into a cafe I was in New York, Upper East actually, a few years ago, on his own, no bodyguards, no one bothered him. He asked if he could join me. We had the best breakfast I've ever had. Yeah. But that's New York. You can do that in New York. That's the point. This idea, though, of Meghan Markle being an inspiring example of equality, Kevin.
Yeah, well,
is there much equal about?
No. And you know my view on all of that. No, I mean they want the royal titles, the Duke and Duchess, because they can monetize it. How they make their big money. I don't. No, there's no equality there whatsoever. But I don't think she is entirely bad, and I can see she will inspire some people, perhaps young girls of colour in particular. Tyrus is very much against her, I see that, but they could actually hire him as a bodyguard. He sounds like he'd be pretty effective, and there would have been no trouble last night with him around.